Number 9, BYU, who is the only team really that has made a big change since we put out the magazine because of Jake Retzlaff being removed from the roster. So what was your decision making on sort of how much he was valued at this team? We've talked a lot about that issue. This was right where BYU was at this time last year, and they found a guy who was very good. So I'm not saying they're going to find it again. They did win a lot of close games. They've got a sort of they've got some solid skill position players like almost every BYU roster will have. It's not quite a service academy, but it's got some service academy vibes when it comes to the depth chart. The offensive line is going to be reworked as well. And look, they don't have a lot of starters returning on defense, but it was the best defense basically in the conference last year. So there's stuff to like, but there's also a lot of big holes that they got to fill.
I think that was BYU is one of my teams I was surprised was consistently getting projected in the top 10 into top 15 by some people earlier this offseason. Now, differences in rankings are good. We can talk about them and we can figure them out. But I was surprised, given the three victories in Big 12 play by one score, also 29 forced turnovers. That's hard to replicate from year to year. So it felt like they were a good regression candidate. Their schedule is pretty favorable. And that's something I took into account when we did the magazine. But I think moving them back is, if you thought they were going to regress already, and now you're taking away a starting quarterback, I think they're moving to the back of the line in this group of like 9 teams that we thought maybe if at the start of spring practice was a Big 12 title contender. I don't think everything on BYU this year was about Jake Retzlaff. I think it's more about the team. And I think if I was a BYU fan, that would give me confidence that says, yeah, we're losing our starting quarterback, but maybe we run the ball better with LJ Martin. The defense under Jay Hill and Sataki, they continue to plug and play, and they're at the top of the conference. So I don't think they're necessarily going to fall off, but I think they were due to regress already. And if you take away your starting quarterback, you're probably closer to like 7-5, 8-4. I think the win total has already dipped to like 6.5 at some places. That seems
I think
about
7. I think 7 wins would be a pretty good year.
Yeah, I do too
for BYU. And 9th place in this conference is, to your point, like again, Kansas State was 8th last year. They're a pretty good team. So, all right, number 10 is Colorado, and here's my question with Colorado: Can you make a change and transition from elite level top end talent to sort of foundational talent? And I don't know if Deion Sanders even wants to do that. I hope he does. I would assume that he does, because he started this process with elite top-end generational talent, his son, and, of course, Travis Hunter, more so Travis Hunter. But they have to eventually fill out the roster with good players everywhere. And I think they've started to do that, but I don't know. What do you make of like transitioning from top-end to foundational as a year that they probably are not going to replicate their 9-win season this year as they did last year?
I think the question that I've wrestled with this offseason is, what's the second act at Colorado look like? Because it's not, football is a team game, but man, Sanders and Hunter were so valuable to that team. Now, full credit to Deion, because they are significantly better. They are much more nationally relevant. They are just coming off a 9-win season. So I don't think they're necessarily going to just completely fall back to like 2-10, 1-11, like we saw a few years ago. But I do think there is going to be a kind of a recycling process here. And as you brought up, like the roster retention, the roster transfers, like they've done Jordan Seaton, one of their freshmen they have brought in. He's an All-American at offensive line. So they have been winning some battles in the traditional high school ranks. But again, here comes another heavy transfer class. Guys like Caden Salter, Joseph Williams at receiver. How does that quarterback battle shake out? Can you get the game-changing ability that Hunter is leaving? Is that made up? We should give.
He might be a once-in-a-generational talent. So
right, it
hard
is
hard to replace that.
Very difficult to replace that. Full credit to Robert Livingston on defense. Less than 24 points a game last year in Big 12 play for Colorado's defense. And they got a lot of dudes like Jaheim Otis, Arden Walker, guys who are highly touted coming out of high school. They bounced around in transfers. So I think their defense could actually take another potentially step forward, but the offense is probably due to regress here. And I think there's a line for me. We talked about TCU, BYU. I think there's a line here. I would be pretty surprised if Colorado or
Yeah.
any other team in
Yeah.
the ranking gets to the Big 12 championship game.
I agree. Number 11 is Houston. This is all about how good the offense, how many steps forward can the offense take under Willie Fritz in year two. They tend to do very well in his second season at a school, but they've got basically a new quarterback, a new offensive line, new skill position players, new new coordinator, new everything on offense. They also are replacing Shield Wood, who you mentioned went to Texas Tech, but the defense was not the problem last year. They're in really good shape on that side, and I trust Willie Fritz to do the job. This is just about culture building and sort of the next big step. I think 4-8 last year. If they get to 6 wins, they get to a bowl game, or 7. I think it's a clear statement of Willie Fritz's ability to just continue to slowly build a program, and I think that's what's going to happen. I think they're going to mess up some seasons, though. Is how I feel about Houston. They may not have a great year, but they're going to mess up somebody else's great year.
I agree with you. I am going to take Houston to get to a bowl game. I think they find a way to get to
I
6
agree.
victories. Defensively, they do lose quite a bit. 4 starters back. They lost their defensive coordinator, Austin Armstrong, who was at Florida, is now calling the plays.
He 30 years old yet?
Right.
Keep going.
It's fine. It's a fine hire. Offensively, though, is what I like out of this team. And going out and getting Slade Nagel, who was Willie Fritz's OC back at Tulane. They're getting the band back together. Connor Wigman, ultra talented, didn't work out at Texas A&M. Probably bounce back candidate. They fixed the offensive line through the portal. So Houston's offense was a huge question. It's going to be better. I think they'll be solid again on defense. I just trust Willie Fritz to do the things at the margins. So give me Houston to be one of the most improved teams in the Big 12 this year.
Totally agree. Cincinnati at number 12. They went from 3-9 to 5-7 last year, so some mild improvement, but that might not be enough to save Scott Satterfield's job. Of course, they did find a quarterback in Brendan Sorsby, who was solid last year, not great, but solid. They had a new defensive coordinator in Tyson Vate last year. This will be year 2 under him. I don't know what the upside is here, and I don't know what Scott Satterfield needs to prove to keep the job. If they don't get to a bowl game again, I have a hard time thinking that he is back next year.
I would agree with that. I mean, I think Cincinnati, it's Cincinnati's like every team in this conference is you should make a bowl game every year. Like that's a pretty reasonable expectation. Yeah. Not every team in the Big 12 can make a bowl game, but I think you're right about Brendan Sorsby. If Cincinnati gets to a bowl game, it's because Brendan Sorsby takes that step forward. They went very heavy into the portal to find answers at receiver, offensive line, and the secondary. So there's a lot of personnel turnover, but it might be overcome by having Sorsby back. Let me also direct you to the schedule because they play Oklahoma State, they play UCF, and they play Arizona. 3 of the teams at the bottom of the conference. So if you're trying to get to a bowl game, you get 3 of the easier teams in the conference on your conference slate there.
Keep an eye on Cincinnati. I do think they need to get to a bowl game for him to save his job, for sure. That brings us to last but not least, not in the standings, but in this conversation, Oklahoma State, number 13. Look, is there a more tired collection of coaches than Mike Gundy, Doug Meacham, and Todd Grantham?
It was cool back in 2010?
2012? Yeah, would have been a really good staff in 2012.
Right.
It's the good news, I guess, is it's a totally blank canvas on offense. There are a couple starters back, but I don't trust Grantham to not blitz on third down. So what do you like? What happens at Oklahoma State? This could be an entire podcast, but what happens at Oklahoma State this year?
Honestly, I have no idea what to make of this team. I'm not joking about this. On my notes that I took for the magazine on each team, the first line on Oklahoma State I have is, who the heck knows? Because last year they went from preseason favorite to 0-9 in the Big 12 and 3-9 overall. You wonder a little bit if it's the last stand for Mike Gundy, because if it doesn't work out this year, you're probably cycling over the roster again. He took a pay cut, so there's a lot of signs there that there's a lot of pressure. I think if you wanted to believe that this team is going to be better, they brought in, I think, over 40 transfers. They've got new coordinators. It's basically a new 2 deep. It is a fresh start. And there's some reasons to be optimistic on defense about the personnel. Offensively, I don't know. Who's going to be the go-to receiver, offensive line, quarterback? I don't know. If you think this team is much better, it's just that Mike Gundy does Mike Gundy things, and Oklahoma State finds a way to get to 6 wins and kind of exceeds expectations. I think they will be better. I just don't know if it's like 6 wins, or is it 5 wins, or are we talking about a new coach there at Oklahoma State next year? They're a very hard team to figure out with all the changes.
I don't know what I don't think Oklahoma State knows what it wants. Like the power structure. I don't know if they're like, do we make a change from Gundy? Do we keep Gundy? Do we give him a chance to fix it? Like I don't know if they know. I don't know if he knows, but it's going to be interesting to watch either way. So there you go. 13th Oklahoma State, 14th West Virginia, 15 Arizona, 16 UCF. All right, let me ask you this to wrap up the conversation here. Please buy a magazine, athlonsports.com. Here's last year's magazine, and I've got last year's for a reason. Go buy this year's magazine. Keep it. It's on newsstands. It's on the internet. You can buy it on athlonsports.com. You can watch us on YouTube, and you can listen to us on a podcast app of choice. Rate, review, subscribe. 5 stars. Okay. Iowa State was 7th. Arizona State was 13th. They played in the Big 12 championship game. You have to pick 2 teams like that are going to play in the Big 12 championship game. And don't just pick like Texas Tech and Iowa State because they're 3 and 4 in your rankings. But if you're not picking Kansas State or Arizona State, in light of number 7 and 13 playing in the championship game last year, give me the matchup you think this conference could deliver. And if you pick Texas Tech and Iowa State, I'm like, oh, that's just your rankings. I'm gonna scold you.
I just looked at the predictions in this year's magazine, and 7 and 13 is Utah and Oklahoma State. It's like the perfect rebound year after what happened last season. So that
would be a horrendous uniform game, for the record. The helmet matchup is terrible.
I love Utah's uniforms, but yeah,
they don't.
That would not be a mix.
Orange and red do not go well together.
Yeah, that wouldn't be a good mix. How about Utah versus Baylor?
That's what I was going to pick.
Yeah,
I was going to pick Utah versus Baylor.
That would be my
nice
sleeper Big 12 championship game.
How about TCU Baylor?
Mm-hmm.
That could be good.
That could be really good.
That could be interesting. Iowa State Utah, also not a great helmet rivalry matchup, but we'll see. Texas Tech Utah is just a lot of black and red on the field. Baylor Utah would be a good helmet matchup. I feel like good uniform game, good defenses. Yeah. That would be a good green and red. That's a good combo right there. I like that. As long as neither of them wears a bunch of black. So, all right, Steven, anything else you'd like to say? Parting shots of wisdom around the Big 12?
Like I said at the top, I think this is the toughest power conference to predict, 1 through 9, 10, 11, and even at the back half of the conference. But I also think that this conference is going to deliver another awesome season of football. Yeah, so I cannot wait. I love the mix of coaches, quarterbacks, all that, even if the coaches are soft and ending the league's preseason rankings, so because they got their feelings hurt about it.
Such big babies. We should have talked about that earlier. I love the quarterbacks in this league. I don't think they're as talented as some of the NFL prospects in the SEC, but these are really good quarterbacks, and there's going to be a lot of really good quarterback matchups every single Saturday. So I agree with you. It's probably the most entertaining and most unpredictable and most dramatic football league we're going to have all season this year. It's going to be a lot of fun, and we'll see if they can get a second team into the playoff this time. So we shall see. Always a pleasure, my guy. Special thanks to all of you out there listening. Give us some reviews. Right. Only good things, 5 stars only. Otherwise, watch us on the YouTube as well. There, thumbs up, notifications turned on. Go buy a magazine also. For Steven, I am Braden. Thanks for listening. Thanks for hanging out. We'll talk to you next time.